Ambassador Kel stood at the front of the briefing room and looked at the nervous faces of the delegation. There were 12 of them in total. Diplomats, military officers, and scientists from 6 different species. All of them were about to meet humans for the first time, and none of them looked happy about it. "I know you have heard stories," Kel said, clicking their mandibles together in the way their species did when uncomfortable. "Some of those stories are true. Humans are dangerous. They come from a death world. Their planet has extreme temperatures, deadly predators, poisonous plants, and natural disasters that would destroy most civilizations. And yet, they survived. They did more than survive. They became the dominant species on their world." A Tyranny officer named Voss made a rumbling sound in his throat. He was tall and covered in green scales, with sharp teeth that showed when he spoke. "We know all this, Ambassador. Humans are strong and crazy. Why should we care? We have dealt with Deathworlders before." Kel was quiet for a moment. "Because the humans have done something no other species has ever done. Something we thought was impossible." The room became very still. "What did they do?" asked Archivist Luma. She was old, even by her species' long standards, and her large owl-like eyes were full of curiosity. Kel took a deep breath. "They tamed the Void Wolves." The reaction was immediate. Voss jumped to his feet, his scales turning a darker shade of green. 2 of the smaller diplomats screamed. Luma's feathers stood up in shock. Everyone started talking at once, their voices filled with fear and disbelief. "That is not possible," Voss shouted. "Void Wolves cannot be tamed. They are monsters. They destroyed the entire Kellan Empire. They wiped out 3 of our colony worlds. Nothing can control them." "I did not say control," Kel replied calmly. "I said tame. There's a difference. The humans did not force the Void Wolves to obey them. They befriended them." The room fell silent again. This time, the silence was filled with a different kind of fear. The kind of fear that comes when you realize that everything you thought you knew might be wrong. 3 hours later, their ship arrived at the human station called Horizon's Edge. It was a large station, built into an asteroid at the edge of human space. As their vessel docked, Kel noticed that the other delegates were shaking. Some of them had refused to come at all, choosing to stay on the ship where it was safe. The airlock opened with a hiss, and a human man walked through to greet them. He was tall by human standards, with gray hair and a weathered face. His name was Park Jin, and he was the commander of the station. "Welcome to Horizon's Edge," Jin said with a smile. "We are honored to have representatives of the Galactic Union here. I hope your journey was comfortable." Kel was about to respond when they noticed something moving in the shadows behind the human commander. Something big. Something dark. The shadow moved forward, and Kel's heart stopped beating. It was a Void Wolf. The creature was massive, at least 4 meters tall at the shoulder. Its body was made of living darkness, shifting and flowing like smoke that had learned to think. Its eyes were the worst part. They glowed like dying stars, cold and ancient and hungry. Kel had seen recordings of Void Wolf attacks. They had watched entire fleets disappear into those eyes. They had seen planets go dark as the creatures fed on the fear of billions. And now one was standing right in front of them. "Do not be afraid," Jin said casually. He reached up and scratched the monster behind what might have been its ear. "This is Maru. He is very friendly." Voss drew his weapon. It was a plasma pistol, capable of burning through starship armor. Against a Void Wolf, it would do nothing, but fear made people do stupid things. "Put that down," Jin said, his voice suddenly cold. "If you threaten Maru, he might think you are a danger to me. You do not want that." Maru turned his massive head toward Voss, those star-like eyes focused on the weapon. A low sound came from deep within the creature's chest. It was not quite a growl. It was more like the sound of space itself humming with potential violence. Voss lowered his weapon very slowly. "Good," Jin said, his smile returning. "Now, as I was saying, welcome to our station. Mara, say hello to our guests." The Void Wolf made a different sound this time. It was softer, almost like a greeting. Then it yawned, showing teeth that could bite through dimensions, and lay down at Jin's feet. Within seconds, it was asleep. Kel stared at the sleeping monster. In all their years of diplomatic service, they had never felt so completely unprepared for a situation. "How?" Luma whispered. "How is this possible?" Jin looked down at Maru with genuine affection in his eyes. "It is a long story, but the short version is that we asked nicely, and we did not give up. Humans are stubborn like that." He gestured for them to follow him deeper into the station. "Come, I want you to meet the rest of our handler corps and their partners." The delegation followed in stunned silence. As they walked through the corridors of Horizon's Edge, they saw more void wolves. Many more. The creatures were everywhere. Some were lying in corners, sleeping peacefully. Others were walking alongside humans, their massive forms somehow fitting through spaces that seemed too small for them. In one large room, a young human woman was playing with a smaller void wolf. She threw a ball of compressed starlight, and the creature chased it, phasing through walls and furniture before catching it and bringing it back to her. Its tail, if a being of living shadow could have a tail, was wagging. "That is Yun Hana," Jin explained. "She's one of our best handlers. The void wolf is named Bori. Hana found her as a pup 3 years ago, injured and alone. She nursed her back to health." Hana noticed them watching and waved cheerfully. Bori looked at the aliens with curious eyes, then went back to playing. Cal found their voice at last. "This is impossible. Void wolves are extinction-level threats. They have killed more sentient beings than any plague or war in galactic history. And you are playing fetch with them." Jin nodded. "Yes, they have killed many. They were feared by everyone they met. Every species in the galaxy ran from them, shot at them, tried to destroy them. Can you imagine what that was like for them? To be hated and feared everywhere you go?" "They are monsters," Voss said, but his voice had lost its certainty. "They were alone," Jin replied softly. "They were the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and they were completely alone. Until we came along." He smiled again, and this time there was something sad in it. "Humans know what it is like to be feared. We know what it is like when everyone thinks you are a monster. Maybe that is why we were able to understand them." An old woman approached them. She had kind eyes and gray hair tied back in a simple style. "I am Dr. Choi Su," she said. "I was one of the first scientists to study the void wolves after initial contact. If you want to understand how this happened, I can explain. But I warn you, the story is not easy to hear." Cal looked at the sleeping Maru, at the playing Bori, at all the impossible things happening around them. "Tell us everything," they said. Su nodded. "Very well. But first, you need to understand one thing about humans. We are not brave. We feel fear just like everyone else. The difference is that we are too stupid to let fear stop us from doing what we think is right." She turned and began walking toward a conference room. "Follow me. I will tell you about the day everything changed. The day a young man named Kang Tae decided that a dying monster deserved a friend." Dr. Choi Su led the delegation into a quiet room with comfortable seats and a large display screen. Outside the window, stars sparkled in the endless dark. Somewhere in the station, a void wolf howled softly, and another one answered. The aliens shivered at the sound. 15 years ago, Su began. A human colony ship called the Morning Star was traveling through unexplored space. There were 3,000 people on board. Families, children, engineers, farmers. They were going to start a new life on a distant planet. She pressed a button and images appeared on the screen. A beautiful ship. Smiling faces. Hope for the future. They never reached their destination. The images changed. The ship was torn apart. Bodies floating in space. Fire and darkness. A pack of void wolves found them. Within hours, most of the colonists were dead. The creatures fed on their fear, growing stronger with every life they took. Rescue ships arrived 2 days later, expecting to find nothing but wreckage. Sue paused. Instead, they found a young man sitting in the ruins of a cargo bay. He was injured, starving, and covered in blood. But he was alive, and he was not alone. A new image appeared. It showed a thin young man with hollow eyes, sitting beside a wounded void wolf. The creature was smaller than the others, barely 2 meters tall. Black blood leaked from deep cuts in its shadowy form. The young man had one hand on the creature's head. That young man was Kong Tae. He was 20 years old. He had watched his entire family die. He should have been dead too. But something in him refused to break. Ambassador Kell leaned forward. What happened? How did he survive? Sue smiled sadly. When the void wolves attacked, most people ran. Most people screamed. Their fear made them targets. But Tae was different. After watching his parents die, something inside him went quiet. He did not feel fear anymore. He did not feel anything. Shock, Luma said softly. Psychological trauma. Yes, his mind shut down to protect itself. And that saved his life. Sue continued. The void wolves hunt by sensing fear. It is like a smell to them or a sound. They are drawn to it. But Tae had no fear left. To them, he was invisible. So he hid, Voss said. He was a coward who got lucky. No, Sue's voice was sharp. He did not hide. He found the wounded void wolf in a destroyed section of the ship. It had been hurt during the attack, cut by debris. Its pack had abandoned it. It was dying alone. The room was very quiet. Any sane person would have run away. Any sane person would have tried to kill it while it was weak. But Tae was not sane anymore. He was broken. And broken people sometimes do strange things. Sue showed another image. Tae, younger and thinner, pressing bandages against the void wolf's wounds. The creature was watching him with those terrible star eyes, but it was not attacking. He talked to it. For 2 days, while waiting for rescue, he sat with that dying creature and talked to it. He told it about his family, about his childhood, about his dreams. He shared his food with it, even though he was starving. He treated its wounds, even though he barely knew what he was doing. Why? Kel asked. Why would he help something that had killed everyone he loved? Sue was quiet for a long moment. I asked him that once. He said that when he looked at the void wolf, he did not see a monster. He saw something that was hurt and scared and alone. Just like him. She pressed another button. A video began to play. It showed the rescue team entering the cargo bay, weapons ready. They saw Tae. They saw the void wolf. They prepared to fire . And then the void wolf moved . It did not attack the humans. Instead, it placed itself between Tae and the rescue team. It spread its body like a shield, protecting the young man who had shown it kindness. The rescue team almost shot it anyway, Sue said. But Tae stood up and put himself in front of the void wolf. He said that if they wanted to kill it, they would have to kill him first. Boss made a sound of disbelief. He protected it? After it killed his family? The void wolf that saved Tae was not the one that killed his family. It was young, barely more than a pup. It had been following the pack, learning to hunt. When the attack happened, it got separated and hurt. Sue shook her head. Tae understood that. He saw the creature as an individual, not as a symbol of everything that had hurt him. The video ended. Sue turned off the display. The rescue team brought both of them back. Scientists studied the Void Wolf. They expected it to become violent. They expected it to try to escape or kill its captors. But it did neither. It stayed calm as long as Tay was nearby. When they tried to separate them, it became agitated. When Tay was present, it was peaceful. An emotional bond, Luma said, her ancient eyes wide with wonder. The creature had formed an emotional bond with a human. Yes, and that was when I began my research. Sue pulled up more data. Void wolves are empathic predators. They sense emotions, especially fear. But they can sense other emotions too. Kindness, calm, affection. The problem is that no one had ever shown them those things. Every being they met was terrified of them. She looked at the aliens with sad eyes. Can you imagine that? Living for thousands of years, and the only thing you ever feel from others is pure terror? The Void Wolves were not evil. They were hungry. They hunted what was available. And fear was the only thing anyone ever gave them. Until the humans came, Kel said slowly. Until the humans came, Sue agreed. We have a saying, crazy people do crazy things. Normal humans feel fear when facing a Void Wolf. But some humans are not normal. Some humans, like Tay, feel something different when facing extreme danger. Excitement, curiosity, even joy. Voss laughed, but it was not a happy sound. You are mad. All of you. Perhaps. But our madness has changed everything. Sue stood up and walked to the window. A Void Wolf was drifting past outside, its shadowy form beautiful against the stars. After Tay, we began looking for others like him. People who could stay calm in the face of terror. People who could feel compassion even for monsters. We called them handlers. How many died? Kel asked quietly. Sue did not turn around. Many. The early days were terrible. We did not understand the Void Wolves well enough. We made mistakes. People died because we were learning. A voice became thick with old pain. 43 handlers lost their lives. 72 researchers. 11 stations were destroyed when bonds failed or when we approached the wrong individuals. The aliens were silent. But we did not give up. Humans never give up. We kept trying, kept learning, kept dying. And slowly, one by one, we began to succeed. She turned back to face them. Now we have 47 bonded pairs. 47 Void Wolves who have chosen to trust humans. 47 handlers who have earned that trust. Yoon Hannah entered the room at that moment, with Bori following behind her. The young Void Wolf's form rippled as she moved, like shadows dancing in firelight. Sue, we have a problem, Hannah said. Her face was serious. Long-range sensors have detected something. A big fleet. Thousands of ships. Sue's expression changed. What kind of ships? Hannah looked at the aliens, then back at Sue. They are hollow ships. The machines are coming, and they are heading straight for Union space. The delegation erupted in panic. The hollow were a machine race that consumed organic life. They were relentless, endless, and had never been defeated. If they were coming, billions would die. Commander Park Jin appeared in the doorway, his face grim. Emergency meeting in the command center. All delegates, all senior handlers. Now, as they hurried out of the room, Kel noticed Hannah kneeling beside Bori. The young woman was stroking the Void Wolf's shadowy head, whispering something soft and reassuring. Bori pressed against her, and for just a moment, the terrifying creature looked like nothing more than a scared animal seeking comfort from its best friend. Kel thought about what Sue had said, about being alone, about being feared, about finding family in the strangest places. Perhaps they thought humans were not just insane. Perhaps they were exactly what the galaxy needed, even if the galaxy did not know it yet. The command center of Horizon's Edge was filled with noise and fear. Officers ran between stations, screens flashed with warning lights, and voices shouted over each other. Commander Pak Jin stood in the center of it all, his face like stone as he watched the data streaming across the main display. The Hollow fleet was enormous. 3,000 ships, maybe more, moving through space like a wave of metal death. They were still far away, but they were coming fast. In less than 2 days, they would reach the first Union colony world. "This cannot be happening," Ambassador Cal whispered. Their mandibles clicked together nervously. "We defeated the Hollow at the Battle of Silver Point. We pushed them back. They were supposed to be gone." "The Hollow are never gone," said Archivist Luma, her feathers flat against her body in distress. "They rebuild. They multiply. They adapt. Every time we think we have won, they return stronger than before." High Commander Voss was studying the fleet composition on a smaller screen. His scales had turned pale with fear, though he tried to hide it. "Our combined military forces cannot stop this," he said grimly. "The Union fleet has maybe 800 warships in this sector. Against 3,000 hollow vessels, we would last perhaps 6 hours. Then we call for reinforcements," Cal said. "We gather every ship in the Union. There is no time." Jin's voice cut through the noise. Everyone turned to look at him. "The nearest reinforcements are 2 weeks away. The Hollow will reach the colonies in 2 days. If we wait for help, billions will die." The room fell silent. The weight of those words pressed down on everyone like a physical thing. Dr. Choi Soo stepped forward. She had been studying something on her personal tablet, and now she looked up with an expression that was hard to read. "There might be another way." Voss snorted. "What other way?" "We cannot fight them. We cannot outrun them. Our weapons barely scratch their armor." "There is one weapon that has worked against the Hollow before," Sue said. She looked at Jin, and something passed between them. A silent question, a silent answer. 300 years ago, before the Union was formed, the Hollow attacked the Callan Empire. They were winning. Nothing could stop them. "I know this story," Luma said, her eyes widening. "The Callan were saved when a swarm of void wolves appeared. The creatures tore through the Hollow fleet like it was made of paper. The machines could not adapt fast enough." "Exactly." Sue nodded. "Void wolves exist partially in another dimension. They can phase through solid matter. Shields mean nothing to them. Armor means nothing. They attack from inside ships, destroying them from within. The Hollow have no defense against them." The aliens stared at her. Then they stared at the void wolves, visible through the windows of the command center. The massive creatures were gathered outside, sensing the tension in the station. Their star eyes glowed in the darkness. "You want to use them?" Cal said slowly. "You want to release void wolves against the Hollow." "Not release," Jin said. "Deploy, with their handlers. As a coordinated strike force." Voss laughed bitterly. "That is insane. Even if your creatures could destroy the Hollow, what happens when the battle is over? What happens when they finish with the machines and turn on us?" Jin's expression did not change. "They will not." "You cannot know that," Voss shouted. "These are the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. In the heat of battle, surrounded by death and destruction, you expect them to just behave?" Yunhana stepped forward. She had been standing quietly near the wall. Mori pressed close against her side. "They will not attack us because we are their family," she said simply. "Bori would die before she hurt me, and I would die before I let anyone hurt her. That is what being bonded means." "Pretty words," Voss snarled. "But words will not protect the galaxy if your pets go wild." Bori growled, and the sound made everyone freeze. The young void wolf had sensed Hana's anger and her form was growing darker, more dangerous. Shadows crawled across the floor around her. Hannah put her hand on Bori's head. Easy, girl. He does not understand. That is not his fault. Slowly, the shadows retreated. Bori calmed down, though her eyes stayed fixed on Voss. You see? Hannah said. She listened to me. Even when she was angry, even when she wanted to attack, she listened. That is not control. That is trust. Jin looked around the room. I am not asking you to trust the Void Wolves. I am asking you to trust us. The Handler Corps has been preparing for something like this for years. We have trained for coordinated operations. We have a plan for large-scale battles. Our Void Wolves know how to work together, and they know who the enemy is. And if you fail? Kel asked quietly. If the bonds break, if the Void Wolves turn feral, then we die with them, Jin said simply. Every handler will be out there with their partner. If something goes wrong, we will be the first ones hit. We are not asking you to take a risk we are not willing to take ourselves. The room was silent. Outside, the Void Wolves waited. Inside, the delegates looked at each other with fear and uncertainty. We need to vote, Kel said finally. This is too big a decision for any one person. The delegation will vote on whether to support this plan. The vote was quick. Luma voted yes. 3 other diplomats voted yes. 2 voted no. Voss hesitated for a long moment, his claws tapping against the table. If this goes wrong, the Void Wolves could kill more people than the Hollow ever would, he said slowly. But if we do nothing, billions die for certain. He closed his eyes. I vote yes. May the ancestors forgive me. Kel nodded. Then it is decided. The humans will deploy their Void Wolves against the Hollow fleet. Jin allowed himself a small smile. Thank you. We will not let you down. He turned to his officers. Contact all handlers. Full deployment in 12 hours. I want every Void Wolf ready for combat. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. Handlers said goodbye to friends and family, knowing they might not return. Mechanics prepared the small, fast ships that would carry the handlers into battle. Scientists checked equipment and ran final tests. Kang Tae arrived at the station in the 9th hour. He was older now, in his mid-30s, with gray starting to show in his hair. But his eyes were still calm, still peaceful. Morrow walked beside him, the massive Void Wolf moving with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. I heard we are going to war, Tae said to Jin. We are. The Hollow are coming. Thousands of them. Tae looked out at the stars. Mara and I have not fought together since the border incident. He is excited. He paused. I am scared. Jin put a hand on his shoulder. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. The ones who are not afraid are the ones who get killed. Hannah is not afraid. Jin laughed softly. Hannah is a special case. That girl was born without the part of the brain that feels fear. It is why Bori loves her so much. At the edge of the launch bay, Hannah was kneeling beside Bori. The young Void Wolf was bigger now than when they had first met, but she still pressed her massive head against Hannah's chest like a puppy seeking comfort. We are going to fight together, Hannah whispered. There are bad machines coming, and they want to hurt people. We cannot let them. I need you to trust me, okay? I need you to follow my lead, even when things get scary. Bori made a soft sound, like wind moving through empty space. Her eyes glowed brighter, and she nuzzled closer. That is my good girl. Hannah smiled and scratched behind Bori's ear. We are going to show them what happens when you mess with our family. 1 hour before launch, the handlers gathered in the main bay. 47 humans stood beside 47 Void Wolves. The aliens watched from a safe distance, still not entirely believing what they were seeing. Jin walked to the front of the group. You all know what we are facing. The Hollow are coming to destroy everything we have built. They will kill billions if we do not stop them. But we are not going to let that happen. He looked at his handlers, at their partners, at the impossible army they had created through years of patience and sacrifice. We are going to show the galaxy what it means to be human, and what it means to fight beside those we love. Stay together, protect each other, and give those machines hell. A cheer went up from the handlers. The Void Wolves responded with howls that shook the station, sounds that echoed through dimensions and made the stars themselves tremble. Kel watched as the handlers boarded their ships. As the Void Wolves phased into the void beside them, they were watching the impossible. They were watching madness. They were watching hope. May the stars protect them, Luma whispered beside them. Kel nodded slowly. Something tells me they do not need protection. They have something better. What is that? Kel watched the last Void Wolf disappear into the darkness, following a small ship with a young woman at the controls. Each other. The Hollow fleet stretched across space like a metal storm. 3,000 ships moved in perfect formation, their black hulls absorbing light, their weapons glowing with terrible energy. They had no fear, no mercy, no doubt. They were machines built for one purpose: to consume all organic life. Against them came 47 small ships, each one carrying a human pilot. And beside each ship, moving through the void like living shadows, came the Void Wolves. Kang Tae sat in the cockpit of his vessel, watching the fleet grow larger in his display. His heart was beating fast, but his hands were steady. Beside him, visible through the transparent hull, Maru drifted through space. The massive Void Wolf's eyes were fixed on the enemy. He was ready to hunt. All handlers, this is Kang Tae. Sound off. One by one, the handlers reported in. 47 voices, 47 confirmations. They were all here. They were all ready. The last voice was Yoon Hana. Handler Yoon, standing by. Bori says she is hungry. There was a smile in her voice. Let us feed her. Tae allowed himself a brief moment of amusement. Then he focused on the fleet ahead. The Hollow had noticed them now. Thousands of weapons were turning toward the tiny group of attackers. Any normal force would be destroyed in seconds, but they were not normal. Handlers, begin Phase 1. Strike formation. Targets are the command ships in the center of the fleet. Take out their coordination, and the rest will fall into chaos. He pushed his ship forward and spoke a single word to Maru. Hun. The Void Wolf disappeared. One moment Maru was beside the ship. The next moment he was gone, phased into that strange dimension that only his kind could reach. Tae tracked him on his sensors, a shadow moving faster than light, heading straight for the largest hollow dreadnought. Maru emerged inside the ship. The Void Wolf tore through the metal corridors like they were made of paper. Machines tried to stop him, but their weapons passed through his shifting form without effect. He was not fully in their dimension. He was between places, existing in two realities at once. The dreadnought's reactor was at the heart of the ship. Maru found it in seconds. He wrapped his massive body around the glowing core and squeezed. The explosion lit up the void. Tae watched the dreadnought die and felt a fierce pride in his heart. Good boy, Maru. One down. All around the fleet, similar scenes were playing out. Void Wolves phased into ships and destroyed them from within. The Hollow tried to adapt, tried to find countermeasures, but there was nothing they could do. How do you fight something that can walk through walls? How do you defend against something that attacks from inside your own armor? Yoon Hana guided Bori toward a cluster of smaller ships. The young Void Wolf was eager, almost playful, as she tore through the enemy. Hana laughed as she watched her partner work. That is 3 for you, Bori. Think you can beat Maru's record? Bori howled in response, the sound echoing across dimensions. She phased through another ship, destroying its weapon systems before moving to the next target. The Hollow were dying. Hundreds of ships, thousands, all falling to the shadow hunters that moved among them like ghosts. The machines tried to retreat, to regroup, to form defensive formations. Nothing worked, but the Hollow were not stupid. They were ancient, and they learned from every battle. And now they learned something new. They noticed that the Void Wolves stayed close to certain small ships. They noticed that when those ships moved, the creatures moved with them. They understood that these tiny vessels were important. The Hollow Command Network calculated a new strategy. If they could not kill the predators, they would kill their companions instead. 100 ships broke away from the main battle and headed straight for the handler fleet. Tame saw them coming. All handlers, we have incoming. Form defensive clusters. Protect each other. The handlers moved to obey, but they were spread out across the battle zone. Some were too far away to help others. Some were too focused on their targets to respond in time. 3 handler ships exploded in the first wave of attacks. 3 humans died in fire and vacuum. 3 Void Wolves suddenly found themselves alone. The change was instant and terrible. The Void Wolves, who lost their handlers, did not go feral. They did not turn on their allies. Instead, they went berserk with grief and rage. They stopped hunting efficiently and started destroying everything in their path. Their howls of pain echoed through space, sounds so full of loss that even the other Void Wolves hesitated. Morrow felt it. He had been mid-attack when the first handler died, and the wave of emotion from the bereaved Void Wolf hit him like a physical blow. He turned to Tame, his eyes burning with concern. "I am fine," Tame said quickly. "Stay focused. We have to protect the others." But protecting 47 ships across a battlefield this large was impossible. More hollow vessels were targeting the handlers now, having realized the strategy worked. Another ship exploded. Another Void Wolf screamed. Hannah watched her sensors with growing horror. "Tame, they are focusing on us. We cannot defend against this many. We do not have to." Tame's voice was hard. "We just have to kill them faster than they can kill us." All Void Wolves, focus on the attacking ships. Protect your handlers. The battle shifted. The Void Wolves abandoned their targets and swarmed back toward the handler fleet. They formed a protective ring around the small ships, destroying any hollow vessel that came close. For a moment, it seemed like they had stabilized. Then the hollow flagship emerged from the chaos. It was massive, 10 times larger than any other ship in the fleet. Its hull was covered in weapons, and its core housed an intelligence that had been fighting wars for 1,000,000 years. This was the mind of the Hollow Swarm, the thing that commanded all the others. The flagship targeted Hannah's ship. Bori sensed the danger before Hannah did. The young Void Wolf screamed and threw herself toward the incoming attack, trying to intercept the energy beam that was about to destroy her partner. She was too slow. The beam hit Hannah's ship, tearing through its hull. Systems failed. Atmosphere vented into space. Hannah felt blood on her face, felt her body being torn apart by forces she could not fight. "Bori," she whispered. The Void Wolf phased through the ruined ship and wrapped herself around the cockpit. Her body covered the holes in the hull, blocking the vacuum with her own shadowy form. She held the broken ship together with nothing but will and love. Tame saw it happening. "Hannah, report." No answer came. Bori pulled the ruined ship toward the flagship. The young Void Wolf was burning with rage now, her form growing darker and more dangerous with every passing second. She had one thought in her mind: destroy the thing that had hurt her human. She struck the flagship with all her strength. She phased inside and tore through its systems, destroying everything she touched. The massive ship shuddered and began to die. But Bori did not stop. She kept attacking, kept destroying, kept screaming her grief and fury into the void. Tame pushed his ship forward. Maru, with me. We have to reach Hana. They found the ruined ship drifting near the dying flagship. Bori was still wrapped around it, still holding it together, still refusing to let her human go. Inside, Hana lay unconscious, bleeding from a dozen wounds. Medical teams, we need emergency extraction at my coordinates, Tay called. Handler down. Repeat, handler down. He brought his ship alongside Hana's wreckage. Through the transparent hull, he could see Bori's eyes watching him. The Void Wolf was exhausted, her form flickering, but she would not move. Bori, Tay said softly. She needs help. You have to let them take her. Bori growled, a sound of protective fury. No one would touch her human. No one would take her away. I know you are scared. I know you want to protect her. But if she does not get help, she will die. You have to trust me. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, Bori pulled back from the ship. She pressed her massive head against the cockpit one last time, touching the glass where Hana's face was visible. Then she let go. Medical teams swarmed the wreckage. They pulled Hana out and rushed her toward the station. Bori followed, staying as close as she could, refusing to let her human out of her sight. Around them, the battle was ending. The Hollow Fleet was broken. The flagship was dead. The surviving machines were fleeing into deep space, their coordination destroyed. Their strategy failed. The Union fleet, which had been watching from a safe distance, moved in to finish the survivors. But there was not much left to finish. 47 Void Wolves and their human partners had done what 1,000 warships could not. The galaxy would never be the same. Tay watched the medical shuttle disappear toward the station. Maru floated beside him, tired but alive. The old Void Wolf made a soft sound, almost like a question. She will be okay, Tay said, hoping it was true. Hana is too stubborn to die. He looked at the battlefield around them, at the wreckage of 3,000 enemy ships, at the shadows of 44 Void Wolves gathering together, checking on each other, mourning their losses. 3 handlers had died today. 3 partners were gone forever, but billions had been saved. Tay closed his eyes and let himself feel tired for the first time since the battle began. Let us go home, Maru. The Void Wolf rumbled in agreement, and together they turned toward the distant lights of Horizon's Edge. Hana opened her eyes slowly. Everything hurt. Her body felt like it had been torn apart and put back together by someone who did not quite know what they were doing. The ceiling above her was white and clean, and the soft beeping of medical machines filled the air. She was alive. It took her a moment to remember what had happened. The battle. The explosion. Bori wrapping around her ship, holding it together with nothing but desperate love. Hana turned her head, ignoring the pain, and looked toward the window. Bori was there. The Void Wolf was curled up outside the medical bay, her massive form pressed against the glass. Her star eyes were fixed on Hana's face, and when she saw that Hana was awake, she made a sound that was somewhere between a whimper and a howl. Hana laughed, then winced as her broken ribs complained. Hey, girl. I am okay. You saved me. Bori pressed closer to the glass, her shadowy form rippling with relief. The nurses had long ago given up trying to move her. The Void Wolf had refused to leave, growling at anyone who tried to make her go. Eventually, the medical staff had just worked around her. Dr. Choi Su entered the room, followed by Kang Tae and Commander Park Jin. They looked tired but relieved. How do you feel? Su asked, checking Hana's vital signs. Like I was hit by a hollow flagship, Hana said with a weak smile. Which I suppose I was. Jin shook his head. You are lucky to be alive. If Bori had not held your ship together, you would have died in seconds. I know. Hana looked at her partner through the glass. She is a good girl. Bori's form seemed to brighten at the praise. Even through the window, Hana could feel the warm pulse of love and relief coming from the Void Wolf. Their bond was strong. It had survived the worst battle either of them had ever faced. Tay sat down beside her bed. He looked older than he had before the fight. His eyes carried new weight. "We lost 3 handlers," he said quietly. Kim-dae, Lee-Yuna, and Cho-hyun. They died protecting the fleet. Hannah closed her eyes. She had known them all. They had trained together, laughed together, shared stories about their Void Wolf partners. Now they were gone. Their Void Wolves? Alive, but Tay hesitated. They are not the same. Losing a handler changes them. They refuse to bond with anyone else. They just wait. Wait for what? For their humans to come back. They do not understand death the way we do. They just know that their partners are gone and they are alone again. The room was quiet. Outside, Bori pressed closer to the glass, sensing Hannah's sadness. 3 days later, Hannah was well enough to walk. She moved slowly, supported by a hover chair when she got too tired. But she insisted on attending the memorial service. The service was held in the main hangar of Horizon's Edge. All the handlers were there, along with their Void Wolf partners. The aliens who had come for the negotiations stood at the edges, watching with expressions of wonder and respect. Commander Jin spoke first. He talked about the 3 handlers who had given their lives. He talked about their bravery, their dedication, their love for their partners. He did not try to make their deaths sound heroic. He just told the truth. They had died protecting the people they cared about. Then Tay spoke about what it meant to be a handler, about the bond between human and Void Wolf, about the strange, beautiful madness of choosing to love something that everyone else feared. Finally, Ambassador Kell stepped forward. The alien diplomat looked different than they had when they first arrived. The fear was gone from their eyes. In its place was something like understanding. "I came here expecting to meet monsters," Kell said, their voice carrying across the hangar. "I expected to see dangerous beasts controlled by dangerous people. Instead, I found families. I found love that crosses the boundaries between species, between dimensions, between everything we thought was possible." They looked at the Void Wolves gathered in the hangar. The creatures were quiet, respectful, their star eyes dim with shared grief. "The humans have taught us something today. They have shown us that nothing in the galaxy is beyond redemption. That even the most feared creatures can become the most loyal friends. That all it takes is someone crazy enough to reach out with kindness instead of violence." Cal turned to face the gathered assembly. "On behalf of the Galactic Union, I offer our deepest gratitude to the Hamlet. You have saved billions of lives. You have changed the course of galactic history, and you have made us believe in possibilities we never imagined." After the service, Hannah found herself standing beside one of the grieving Void Wolves. It was a large male, darker than Bori, with eyes that held an ancient sadness. His handler had been Lee-Yuna, a quiet woman who had loved to sing. The Void Wolf was staring at nothing, his form flickering weakly. "I'm sorry," Hannah said softly. "She was a good person. She loved you very much." The Void Wolf turned those sad eyes toward her. He made a sound that was almost like a question. "I do not know where she went, but I know that she would not want you to be alone forever." Hannah sat down beside him, ignoring the twinge of pain in her ribs. "Maybe someday, when you are ready, you can let someone else in. Not to replace her, just to keep you company." The Void Wolf was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly, he lay down and pressed his massive head against Hannah's side. It was not a bond. It was not even friendship. It was just 2 beings who understood loss, sharing their grief for a moment. Bori approached and settled on Hannah's other side. She did not growl or show jealousy. She understood too. They stayed like that until the stars came out. 5 years passed. The Hamlet had grown. Humans from across the galaxy volunteered to try bonding with void wolves, and some of them succeeded. But more surprising were the aliens who came forward. Archivist Luma was the first. The ancient owl-like scholar had been studying void wolf behavior since the battle against the Hollow. One day, she approached a small void wolf pup that had been born on the station. She felt no fear, only curiosity and affection. The pup bonded with her within a week. Luma named her Hope. "I am very old," Luma told Hana one evening. "I have seen many things in my life, but I never thought I would find a new family in my final years. Your species has given me a gift I can never repay." Other aliens followed. Not many, because few could suppress their instinctive fear, but some. Slowly, the Handler Corps became something more than a human program. It became a galactic institution. Kang Tae retired from active duty, but he never stopped working with void wolves. He became a teacher, training new handlers from a dozen different species. Maru, now old and gray in his own way, stayed by his side. One afternoon, a young trainee asked Tae the question everyone wanted to know. "What is the secret? How do you tame something so terrifying?" Tae looked at Maru, who was sleeping peacefully in a patch of artificial sunlight. The old void wolf's form still shifted and flowed, but more slowly now. He was content. He was at peace. "There is no secret," Tae said. "You just have to be crazy enough to try, and stubborn enough to keep trying. You have to look at something that scares you and see the possibility of friendship instead of danger. That is the human way." He scratched Maru behind the ear, and the ancient void wolf rumbled with pleasure. "We are good at loving things that are hard to love. We are good at seeing beauty in darkness. We are good at reaching out when everyone else runs away." Tae smiled. "Maybe that makes us crazy, but it also makes us exactly what the galaxy needs." Outside the window, the stars sparkled against the endless void. Somewhere out there, new void wolves were being born. New handlers were taking their first steps toward impossible friendships. New stories were beginning. The galaxy was still dangerous. There were still threats, still wars, still darkness. But there were also families that crossed the boundaries of species and dimension. There was love that could not be destroyed. There was hope. Yunhana stood on the observation deck of Horizon's Edge, watching the stars with Bori beside her. Her void wolf was fully grown now, a magnificent creature of living shadow with eyes like dying suns. They had been through fire together. They had faced death and come out the other side. A young human girl approached them nervously. She was maybe 12 years old, a child of one of the station's crew members. She had been watching Bori with wide, curious eyes. "Is she dangerous?" the girl asked. Hana looked at Bori, at the creature that had saved her life and her best friend in all the universe. She thought about all the stories, all the fear, all the death that void wolves had caused throughout history. Then she thought about Kim Dae, Lee Yuna, and Cho Hyun, about the handlers who had died so that others could live, about the bonds that had changed everything. "Yes," Hannah said honestly. "She is very dangerous. She is one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy." The girl stepped back, but Hannah smiled. "But she is also kind and loyal and loving. And she is my family." She patted Bori's side. "Would you like to meet her?" The girl hesitated. Then, slowly, she nodded. Hana helped her reach up to touch Bori's shadowy form. The void wolf made a soft sound and lowered her head, letting the child stroke her gently. "See?" Hannah said. "Not so scary after all. You just have to give her a chance." The girl giggled as Bori nuzzled her hand. Behind them, the galaxy spun on, full of wonders and terrors and possibilities beyond imagination. And somewhere in that vast universe, a human was always reaching out to something that everyone else feared or